one day to kick off, Hawkeye fans. We'll get to my selection for Iowa and Utah State in just a moment. But first, want to thank our sponsor, Under the Kitchen, Randy Engel, down at Fry Fest as we speak, right down in Iowa City, getting that booth ready. He'll be there showing off his wonderful Hawkeye prints. Be sure to give him a visit. Thank you to Randy Engel and his wonderful Hawkeye artwork. He's got some deals with some Iowa players, a lot of Iowa players, and he's only expanding his operation. Be sure to give Under the Kitchen an opportunity. Great gift ideas. Visit him on Facebook. And again, visit him in person at Fry Fest today, Friday, September 1st, in advance of tomorrow's season opener. So let's take a look at my week one picks. And I'm publishing this on Friday. Obviously, a very busy week as it relates to build up for this season opener on Saturday. I did make 3 selections that were part of the Voice of College Football's media network of picks, basically. And this is a premium feature for his users, but I always share my picks here on my channel as well. I was correct on my 3 straight up picks from yesterday, Thursday. Minnesota did beat Nebraska. Utah did beat Florida. North Carolina State beat UConn. The only correct pick against the spread was Utah. I had them covering the 7-point spread against Florida. They did. And of course, as a preface to this, none of what I'm about to give you, my picks, have anything to do with betting or gambling. This is purely for fun, and it's kind of a game and a competition. I know I view it as a competition with the rest of Mark Rogers media people every single year. So let's take a look, first of all, at a couple of games on Friday that are notable. Louisville, Georgia Tech. That's the first one on the docket for Friday. That's a 6:30 p.m. Central Time game on ESPN. Louisville, the opening line was 7.5. I've got Louisville winning this game straight up and covering on the road in the Aflac kickoff game. TCU and Colorado. We start out things on Saturday with a big noon matchup. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, and the defending national runners-up, the Texas Christian Horned Frogs. Boy, TCU, the 20.5-point favorites. I've got Colorado covering that spread. It's just such a big number. Now, obviously, TCU was really good last year, got killed in the national championship game. Deion Sanders has completely overhauled the Buffalo roster. However, 20.5 is a really, really big number. I've got TCU winning this game straight up, but I've got Colorado covering the spread. This game at 11 a.m. Central Time on Fox. Boise State and Washington. Washington opening up as 14.5-point favorites. I've got Washington winning this game, and I've got Washington covering. They are at home. This is a 2:30 p.m. Central Time kick on ABC. North Carolina, South Carolina, a battle of the Carolinas. North Carolina, 2.5-point favorites. And this one I went back and forth on. I've got the upset, South Carolina winning at home, so covering the number and winning straight up. North Carolina falling to the Gamecocks. West Virginia, Penn State, part of Saturday Night Football on NBC, the new Big Ten series of games on NBC networks. I've got Penn State winning this game, and they'll cover the 20.5. I have no faith in Neil Brown right now. They were probably the worst team in the Big 12 last year, and a trip to Penn State for a night game, 20.5 is a big number, but not big enough. I've got the Nittany Lions in both categories. Ohio State and Indiana. This is a 2:30 p.m. Central Time kick on CBS. Yes, the new TV deal. Going to be fun to see games on NBC, CBS, Fox. And I've got Ohio State, of course, winning this game. They're 30.5-point favorites. It seems like whenever I look at a line like this, especially with teams like Ohio State, and say, it's too big of a number, they always cover it. I've got Ohio State covering the 30.5. It is in Bloomington. That will be really pathetic on the part of Indiana if they can't cover a 30.5-point spread at home. Now, I know Iowa got trounced by the Bucks last year, but I've got Ohio State winning and covering the number. Coastal Carolina. Interesting game here. They'll play UCLA. This game scheduled for a 9:30 p.m. Central Time kick. 9:30 p.m. Central Time. So a late game for Coastal Carolina traveling all the way over to the West Coast. UCLA opening up as 14.5-point favorites. I've got Coastal covering, but the time change makes me worry on this one. I think UCLA wins straight up. I like Coastal covering. Grayson McCall, obviously phenomenal. It looked like he was going to leave Coastal last year, ended up staying put. I think they fight UCLA, and I could see them losing by 10 to 14 points. I think that line has moved up to 15.5, but I've got them against the 14.5 to cover, but they'll lose out in LA. And LSU, FSU, The Tigers, a lot of pressure on them this year. Florida State, kind of the preseason darlings in the ACC. LSU on the road at Florida State. This is a game on Sunday. How about this? We've got Northwestern, Rutgers Sunday, Oregon State, San Jose State on Sunday, and this one 5 versus 8. According to the AP poll, LSU and Florida State in the Camping World kickoff game, 6:30 p.m. Central Time on ABC. I've got LSU winning this game on the road. I've got them covering the 2.5. This should be a good game. I'll be anxious to see what the Seminoles look like, but I have more faith in the depth and the top-end talent with Brian Kelly's crew on Sunday. And then Clemson-Duke finish week 1 off on Monday, Labor Day. Clemson and Duke at 7 p.m. Central Time on ESPN. This game opened up with Clemson favored by 12.5. I like Clemson to win this game. I like them to cover preseason top 10. They've had a couple of kind of weird years, not necessarily bad years, but they have not been the power that they were, again, 2 to 3 years ago. And I think they bounce back this season, probably win 10 to 11 games. They will beat Duke on the road. Duke did look pretty good last year where they finished with like 9 wins. So this will be an interesting game, certainly on ESPN, but I like the Clemson Tigers to win on the road at Duke. And that brings us to Iowa and Utah State on Saturday. So this is obviously not really a nationally relevant game, but I will say this. It will tell me a lot if Iowa cannot run the football. I talked about that in my preview. If you missed my preview, I'll throw it up here on the video. You can click on it, watch my breakdown. I also talked with Coach Patterson, Coach Don Patterson, about the game. You can check that out up here as well. Throw that up here. Iowa's got to be able to run the football. This was not a good rush defense last year. I'm talking about the Aggies. They went 6-7, played a somewhat difficult schedule. The Mountain West is not, the MEAC. It's not even the WAC. It's a good FBS conference with teams like San Jose State, Boise State. Usually Nevada's better than they have been here recently. San Diego State's a good football program in that conference. And Blake Anderson is a very good football coach. They won 11 games a couple of years ago. Nevertheless, with all the attrition, they've had like 53 new players come in to that roster this offseason. Even though there are unknowns here, Iowa just has the better players, more athletic players, the bigger players. Iowa should be able to take care of business. And I've talked about this. My big thing to watch for is, well, 2 things. Personnel-wise, I want to see what Iowa looks like at right tackle with Jennings Dunker, who I question, is he really a natural tackle? Will Dejon Parker get some time at right tackle? Can they protect Cade McNamara? Because we're not going to be seeing McNamara scrambling and putting on a show with his feet. Not that he's ever really going to do that at Iowa, but he is adequate, capable of moving out of the pocket and creating some extra yardage. I don't think we're going to see that as he continues to nurse that quad injury. Get him out of Dodge, get him out of the game by the end of the 3rd quarter. If Iowa can build a 25-point lead or bigger, I could see Kirk taking him out of the game early in the 4th. He's not going to take him out in the 3rd. I would just highly doubt that unless they're up by like 40, and I don't anticipate that happening. And then you get your backup tight ends in there, Steven Stilianos, Addison Estringa. You get Jazz Patterson some extra run at tailback. You get some of your younger wide receivers in there who can get good experience and not burn a red shirt. So that's all good. I've got Iowa winning, folks. No surprise there, but I've got the Hawkeyes scoring 31 points over Utah State, who I think will hit the 10-point mark, and that's it. 31-10, the Hawks over the Utah State Aggies in Kinnick Stadium. It should be a hot one. Dress cool. I know the university released this via the media this week. They're allowing water bottles to be brought into the stadium. They're also selling water bottles, water at a discounted rate inside, and there's some other recommendations as well, just to stay cool, be careful out there, have fun at the tailgates, be safe. And we'll talk to you after the game. About an hour after the game, I'll be going live with Coach Don Patterson. Yes, we're back for a 3rd season Iowa postgame with Coach Don Patterson, live talking to you following the game. We're hopefully talking about a 1-0 victory and a healthy Cade McNamara heading into Cyhawk Week. Join us following the game, which starts at 11 a.m. Central Time on Fox Sports 1. We'll talk to you Saturday.